Right, good afternoon. It's just turned 2 o'clock. Welcome you all to Economy and Infrastructure, STC. First thing on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Wendy Lewis, Mike White and Stuart Rice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest? Can't see anybody online. 3 then is to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 13th of June. And that's pages 1 and page 2. All agree? Yeah. I guess you will nod in. I know we just agreed the minutes, but our last meeting was a workshop. Yeah. And to date, I haven't had a report on the workshop, which we would have had added into these minutes. So hopefully I'll get them for the next minutes. And then straight on to 4, just put over to Paul, the Shared Prosperity Fund update.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to give an update on the programme. In the report, I've tried to cover some of the background, a little bit of the current information on delivery, and where we think things might be going next, which I think is pretty pertinent for the role of the committee. And also attached in the appendices is the most recent quarterly reports, which is published every 3 months, which has got the detail of programme delivery. So the fund is one of the replacement EU funds. It's probably important to say it's not the only one. There are other funds like the Levelling Up Fund, the Community Ownership Fund, UKRI and Innovate UK, and others have funds available for different sectors. But this is probably the closest funds to the principally revenue type activities that used to be supported through European funding. It's fair to say it is a smaller sum, and to give an anecdote, the Objective 1 programme that ran from 2000 to 2006, where I started my role in the council, I remember doing a newspaper feature where we were talking about 120 million of grant being allocated in something like a 3-year period, which would equate similarly to the length of this programme, just in Swansea, and that didn't include national and regional projects. So whilst it is a lesser sum, the level of delegation has been welcome from my point of view as someone that works in funding, responding to all manner of inquiries from all parts of the council and beyond. It's been quite a useful fund in that respect. In Wales, although the programme is operated on an allocation basis, so every single local authority in the United Kingdom was given a specific allocation. And I know there are debates about the methodology for the formula to work on the amount of money each got. There was no competition in that respect, so the money was allocated, and therefore that removed one layer of squabbling potentially. But in Wales, we were asked to work regionally because that is the normal method of operation with this type of funding, and Swansea was nominated as the lead authority for South West Wales. So we act as banker, and compared to previous funding arrangements, we are actually acting as the funding body, as well as then we've got delivery taking place in our own authority, partner authorities and external organisations. So quite a different format to what we've had previously, and more local and regional accountability than we normally get with this type of funding. For Swansea, that results in approximately 40 million across core funding in the mainstream fund, and around 7 million for the multiply programme, and 138 million for the region as a whole, albeit we can't via money between each local authority. So all its local allocations, we sought to plan the thing regionally. In terms of implementation, and I guess this is something that members will be needing to think about as to whether they feel this approach has worked, we opted for a similar approach to what Welsh governments have done with the EU programmes in creating, firstly, a series of backbone anchor projects, and they're called that because they're anchored to a particular theme within each local authority, so be that business development, employability, and the various others there, so that they'd be in a position to scale up based on staff already in post and begin delivering straight away. But also then, once the programme comes to an end, there would still be people there to help manage closure in a worst case scenario if there was no successive programme. So there are various themes that have been augmented. And the list is there. So the business development, principally employability, has been a particularly strong one. Supporting communities, placemaking, which most members will have seen that occurring in their wards. Culture and tourism is another significant one, and it's enabled significant resource to be put into that area of work with Tracy McNulty, and also funding towards the rural area. And that has been beneficial in as much as in the past we've been either overloaded with revenue and no capital, or all capital and no revenue. And on this occasion, we've been able to balance that. So the rural areas have been supported, and with a slightly looser definition of what a rural area is, to enable pockets of rural activity that happen in maybe more urban areas to be supported. So each of those anchor projects consists of delivery staff, and that's delivery. This isn't just funding administration. The programme has up to 4% available for administration of the funding, but the bulk of the money is deployed on actual frontline delivery across those different themes. And also each of the anchor projects contains within it one or more grant schemes. For example, around placemaking, you've got support for small capital schemes, greening schemes. There are 5 business grants available under the business anchor, which you may be familiar with, from pre-start through to various things to support businesses growing, and that pattern is reflected throughout the different anchors. And really speaking, I think that the process of implementation has been far quicker. In my experience of being through 3 EU funding rounds, the time we had to get this drafted up from scratch and implemented, we had probably the first year of delivery was lost to that in one respect, because the programme was announced at the start of the first delivery year. Then we went straight into a pre-election period. So there were delays in getting the thing up and running, delays with it being approved by UK government. But from that point onwards, it's motored, and it's probably been the swiftest process from design to getting money out of the door that I've seen in my career to date. As I said, I've attached the most recent Swansea report. Each of the local authorities produces a similar document, which is literally a catalogue of everything that's going on. It is a lengthy document, but again, there's an exact summary to shortcut the basic information on the programme, as well as then at the end there's a huge amount of publicity material on all the direct impact this programme is having. I've put a selection of some of the headline outcomes which have actually been exceeded, I think, since the report was prepared, but there's at least 1.3 million already been awarded to 132 businesses. That has levered in something like £1 million of private sector match funding, which is really good. And that is, some of that money is actually creating jobs both in new startup companies as well as growth grants, where people get some money towards equipment and to enable them to add another service to their business, and they get a sum per job created plus safeguarded. Gower College, Swansea have led a consortium bid, which has worked as an effective partnership to around 3.6 million of the funding. And there's more detail in the quarterly report on what they're achieving with that one. Over 2,000 people have received employability support. Significant numbers. It's some really powerful figures there, and importantly, taking the business anchor as an example, there's approximately a 4 million total project cost, of which 2 million is the grant pot available. The other 2 million goes towards partly staffing and partly various activities to provide support for businesses. And it's probably fair to say that the amount being spent in order to distribute the money to the private sector is quite economical, and there's a very good balance there between support activity funded by the local authority and money actually being delivered to the front line. As of yesterday, I was told that we've nearly paid out £1 million now. Of that 2 million, it's already paid out to businesses, and the rest is heading towards full commitment as we speak. That position is reflected across the region, and particularly the business support and employability anchors have been planned regionally, and there are regional meetings that take place for consistency across the region. Similar menu of business grants available, for example, across the whole of South West Wales, from Pembrokeshire to Neath Talbot, which means that businesses applying know that there's a consistent offer across the region. So the strength of the programme, I would say, is that we've based it largely on pressures identified through our South West Regional Economic Delivery Plan, which has been to the committee previously with Claire James. And this funding has really enabled us to wrap around areas of needs that have been known and pressures that members have raised over the past few years, and making sure the money can get to where it needs to as quickly as possible. And generally speaking, the funding process is swift, and particularly with grant schemes, you're looking at probably no more than 4 weeks for money to be turned around, as long as business plans have been prepared, etc., in the right way. And that delivery also wraps around Welsh Government support as well. Programmes like Transforming Towns, there's a mandatory referral to the Business Wales scheme, so that there is this funding wraps around. It doesn't duplicate, because there's not enough money to do that. It wraps around other funding programmes and adds value. I mean, really, when you look through the quarterly report, that's just one quarter. You can see the sheer amount of activity that's happening and the number of recognisable businesses and locations that you will see around the county. It's also enabled continuation of Economic Recovery Fund activity as well for greening and people that may have missed out on the shopfront enhancements. So that's been supported as well. Really broad programme of activity. I guess then the last paragraph there is quite short because we don't know what's coming, but we're waiting for the budget statement now to see what happens with future funding arrangements and how that is going to work. There are implications if the programme isn't extended. There's talk possibly of a transition year that might be coming while the new government finds its feet and the relationship with Welsh Government. But I guess the delivery of the programme speaks for itself in that it is delivering both the administration's manifesto commitments and Welsh Government's goals as well. And we have used the freedom given in the programme guidance to enable that design to take place, so that the split of the funding is broadly along the lines of the 3 themes of people and communities, skills and business, and the Multiply programme has to be spent on Multiply. So that initial carve-up had to be done, but then from that point onwards, it's following our local requirements. Plus, each of our partner local authorities have got the flexibility to tweak that arrangement for their own local needs and their own local governance arrangements. That's kind of the broad sweep of it. And I would say probably it's in what I have to do for the authority. This programme has made my life a lot easier in that you can do a project as a project instead of having to shoehorn it into oblique funding requirements. And that's probably the first time in my career that's been the case. So whilst it's got certain drawbacks, maybe it's not as much money as in the past, and there are some constraints, that freedom to be able to deploy the money to where the inquiries are has been invaluable. I'll stop there, Chair.
Mark or Phil, do you want to add anything to this before I open it up?
No, nothing to add from me, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing I'd add, Chair, is just a reflection on what Paul said about the regional role that the team have played, and I think the region are very lucky and probably thinking how good a job Swansea's done in terms of leading it. It's been it's been a complicated process, and it's required Paul and the team really to spend some very long hours setting things up. And I think they've done a marvelous job for the region, not just for Swansea. So I should imagine if there was a successor programme, I'm sure the region would be looking for Swansea to lead again, given the performance on this one. So that's all I'll add, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Anybody else? Can't see any hands up. Can you? No.
No.
Obviously, reading through this, it says that the scheme ends in December, and there's quite a lot of money outstanding. I understand that this the quarter report is a couple of months behind. So if we said this is a moment in time, how do you think we're moving along? Or I think I also read that we would be looking for an extension, because the other thing is then that whether it is the same scheme, because an officer which I met to look at the communities, and she says her funding finishes in December. So after reading this, I'm guessing it's the same scheme. So obviously, we as councillors would like this to be extended, because I can't see us spending 40 million by December, unless, of course, you put it in little boxes and say, this is yours, off you go, like, and say it's gone. So how are we fixed for December?
Mhm.
And how well, I can't say how confident, because you won't be making that decision, or if you're going to go, or whether you are going to go for an extension.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the programme is delivering at pace now, and I think as of this week we've paid out just shy of 13 million. But all of the money is fully allocated, and there is scope to look at extension to the end of March. The only predicament that leaves is there's a report to go to UK government after that date, and currently we're not allowed to carry the money forward into the next financial year, which does present a risk. So the longer we leave people deliver, the greater the risk is that there'll be, well, it'll be just me on my own, probably filling in the claim form. So don't ring me in April if that's the case. But I'm fairly confident that there are ways we'll be able to extend parts of the programme to March to make sure the money's fully utilised. Failing that, there are options to reallocate the money within the programme to areas where there are spending pressures, and also where there may be capital pressures within the authority on compatible projects, where again we could make a last minute decision to be able to buy money that way as well. So it'll all be used, but we are waiting for the budget statement on the 30th of October for clarity on what will happen next. It does seem reasonably likely that there will be a successor, and there is, as I said, increasing talk of transition. So that should mean there's a safe transition from the current money through a transition year into there may be a new programme after that. So that there is enough funding in the system to be able to extend to March, but there is that just of how we tidy it up if there's no successor programme announced on the 30th of October.
So if we ask for an extension, because I think I read it was for a year. If that's not come in, you reckon we got a plan B?
So well, prior to the election, we were the entire UK was lobbying for a 12-month extension to March 2026. That's all local authorities across the whole of the UK were lobbying for that, and all the LGAs as well were lobbying for that. But obviously, there's a change of government now. The new ministers have to find their feet and work out what their priorities are and how this aligns with that. And without commenting directly on the budget position, obviously that does affect our ability to carry forward under the spend. So in the current context, we're being told we have to spend all of the currently allocated money by the 31st of March. So it's in our interests to do that and show that we can do that. There's no benefit in holding anything back, because it will simply be taken back and contributes to the deficit that's in the headlines at the moment. Any money for next year will be new allocation, basically. It may be possible to work through the same arrangements on a transitional basis, but it will be new money. It will be from the current programme allocation. So it's quite a nuanced way it's being described, but we're hopeful that that transition year will come. There are quite dramatic implications if it doesn't, because there's a huge amount of delivery being supported across the region through this programme that would be lost.
Let's hope we can get a further extension because, like I said, when something like this comes along and you've got 3 years, well, your first year is gone because you've got to plan it. And we're not allowed that extra, year unless we get the extension. Because like you did explain, there wasn't much spent in that first year to just getting everything in place. And then just rolling everything out. Thanks, Ed. Nothing else? Nobody got questions? And that's all we got on the agenda. So do you think we should have a further update when the next quarter is done? Because this is June. So June, October, it should be out by November.
Yes, it will be. And once the budget statement has occurred, we'll know more about what the future is going to look like. So we'll be able to clarify on that as well.
Right. So are we happy to have an update in November? Or December? It's 6 weeks, not 4. We don't get it every month.
12th of December.
So 12th of December, it'll be ready, that monthly report.
Early Christmas present, Chair.
Early Christmas. Well, it'll only be a Christmas present if we spent it all, or we got an extension. That's the only way we'd have a Christmas present. Yeah. Okay, I can't see anybody else indicating. Thanks for that, Paul. Excellent report, and of course, the more money we can get in, the more things we can do with it. Okay. On to item 5, which is the work plan. You've got that in your list, in your pack, which is right at the bottom. So there we are. So the next month we'll have the active travel maintenance, which the last time we had something from highways. Took us about an hour and a half to get through it. So we look forward to the next meeting, which is, it's on there somewhere, 24th of October.
Jack, can you get the...
Right. As has been pointed out to me, we've got to agree the work plan. So you've all seen it. Can we all? Paul's moved it. Seconder. Got a seconder. And with the hands up, everybody's agreed. Okay. Thank you very much. Is that it? Nothing else? No?
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm not having any more orders from my right. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll meet again on the 24th of October. Thank you.